Good day, and welcome to another 10-minute tech tip. And just for the future, I'm going to be calling it a TMTT because 10-minute tech tip is too much of a tongue twister for me, and I keep screwing it up. So, uh, last uh, last time that we met, we were going over keyboard shortcuts. Um, and I said that we would leave Control Alt Delete for later on. And so this is later on, and this one we're going to be talking about Control Alt Delete. Of course, Control Alt Delete, in order to get this started, you want to hold the Control button down, and then control the Alt button down, and then finally hit the Delete key. And when you do that, you will get a blue screen that'll open up. Uh, and it'll look something like this. Actually, it'll be the entire screen. Unfortunately, I can't do a screen capture, so I had to make one up. But the words will be the same and in this order. And the first one you get is lock, which is when you select that, it will set you back to the opening screen when you first start your computer that you have to log into. And now, with the new update with Windows 10, you have a PIN number that you put in. You have switch user. This is if you have multiple users on the same computer, and if they're running concurrently, you can switch between users by selecting this. Sign out will be the you will you'll sign out of the session that you're running. It will close all of your programs, and it'll bring up that same screen that you would have to put your PIN number in. The big difference between sign out and lock is that when you've locked it, your computers are still running in the background, and when you log back in, you can pick up right where you had left off. The one we wanted to talk about, or wanted to talk about today, was Task Manager. And Task Manager is a part of the operating system that when you select it, this screen will open up. And from the screen, it'll show you processes. That's the first tab, and it'll show you everything that you have installed on your computer that you have put on the computer. And you'll see here we have Google Chrome, we have Windows Manager, then Photos, AVG Antivirus, which is my virus protection. Um, and these are all running at this time. And at the top of these headings, you'll see that right now I'm using, well, basically 30% of my CPU's capacity, and then it's broken down for each application. So right now Chrome is using none of the CPU, um, but you can go through and you can see all of the things. Now I'm recording this with Cam Studio Recorder, and you can see here it's taking up roughly 11% of my CPU's resources. This is in real time, and so as things, you'll see these on the side here, things are changing. Um, it becomes kind of a pain if you're trying to select a certain one. The original um, benefit of Task Manager was, if it used to be that if you had a computer program that froze, you uh, had to restart your computer in order to get it unfrozen. And now you can go in here and you can actually stop uh, applications. So if my Google Chrome hangs up, I can right click on this and you can see I can do end task, and that will shut it off. And then if you restart it, then hopefully whatever problem it had will be repaired when it restarts. It shows memory. This is the memory that you have installed on your motherboard, and I have 8 gigabytes of RAM in memory, and you can see that I'm using 42% of it at this time, and probably the majority of that is actually the operating system that's uh, um, running. Operating systems tend to take up a lot of resources. Disk shows you the amount of information that's being written and or read from your hard drive. If you're using virtual memory to augment the RAM that you have on your motherboard, you can increase the amount that your disk can use for temporary storage, in which case then you'd probably see this number go up quite a bit. Right now I'm only running a few percent. Network is the amount of uh, information that is going over your network. In my case, I have one computer and I'm connected to the internet, and I'm assuming that that's what it's um, counting as network usage. GPU is the graphics processor. It's a special chip that's on the motherboard that handles all the graphic usage. And as you can see, that I'm using roughly around 10% of that GPU. And why Desktop Manager seems to be a big user of it, I don't know. But if I had something running in the background, let's say I had a computer game that was on, you would see this go way up, since that's what it's meant for. Um, I'm guessing that you can see here now that Google Chrome my power usage is very high. This is probably because I'm using Google Slides to do this presentation, and it's probably treating it as a graphics. And then over here you can see the power usage, um, and you can see the power usage trend. So generally speaking, evidently Google Chrome has a very low power usage trend. From here we can then go to performance, and it's pretty much the same information. It's just that it's giving it to you in a graphics form. You can see that this is the usage for my CPU, the central processing unit, and you can see the sawtooth representation of the use that's being required of the CPU. For the memory, you can see that the memory usage stays pretty flat at this point, and then my guess would be that this is mostly the operating system itself. As I said, the operating system uses a lot of resources. And then the disk drive, there is a bunch of stuff that's being evidently that's is requiring virtual memory that I have turned on. And then we have Ethernet. That would be the amount of information that's going out of my computer and in connecting to the internet. And why we have this sporadic usage, I have absolutely no idea. It's communicating with something someplace. It might be just communicating with my internet service provider. And then the last graph then it would be the GPU, and you can see it's not using a whole lot, although the memory usage that's dedicated for the GPU, that seems to be rather high, and I'm not quite sure why that would be either. App history. This shows you things that have been running in the past, but it just shows you how much time was used, CPU time was used for that application when it was running, how much network bandwidth it was using, at least for mine, and meter network and tile updates. I am not sure what those mean at all. It's not something that I've ever had any need to learn about, at least for what I need to do. Startup. These are computer programs that if my computer is off and I turn it on, these are applications or programs that are automatically going to run, or automatically going to start up, and then it tells you the impact that it has in the startup. Like AVG is my antivirus. Of course, you want that to start every time the computer does. CCleaner is a open source utility that I use for cleaning out unneeded files, like Google Chrome history, that kind of the stuff that is not essential to running the computer. The other thing that you can use CCleaner for is cleaning up the registry, which can speed up your computer. If you have a lot of registry errors, you want to be able to, this will clean them out and get rid of them, and your computer will run faster. You can see though that I have it disabled, so that when my computer starts up, CCleaner doesn't automatically start. I have to call it up and start it manually. Same with Cortana, which is the search feature for Windows 10. And iTunes Helper. I use iTunes quite a lot for audiobooks, but I really was not impressed with their helper. So rather than have it start up and use resources when my computer is booting, I just have it disabled. If you have multiple users on, it would show, of course I'm the only one on here, but if there was more than me using this computer, and then I had not logged, and they had not logged off, there would be another line here that would show that user, and it would show CPU usage, memory, disk, the same things we saw before under processes. It's just that it would be separated out for each user. Details is a list of things that are running or can run on the computer. You'll notice that each one of these has a .exe. .exe is a file extension that indicates that it's an executable code. So you see that this is for virus protection, and you can see that it's running. Anything that is running on the computer at the time that you're on this screen will be shown as running. If you don't want something to be running, you can right click on it and you can go to end task. You want to be a little careful about this. I found out the hard way that if some of these things the computer has to have running, so if you were to shut that down, your system might become unstable. Um, and then services, uh, these are programs as well, although they don't have the file extension .exe, because these are services that Windows 10 um, has running in the background whenever you start up, and you can see that there are a number that are running. This is the virus protection, but then there are others that I have stopped. And again, if you are not careful, if you go to like the Apple mobile devices here, this one, it says that it's running, but if I decided that I don't want it, I can stop at any time, and you'll see down it's listed as stopped. It's a way that you can make optimize the requirements for the computer, for the resources that your computer has. If you should happen to come across one, let's see, if you let's try, no, that stopped, EC. Now a lot of these you can't tell exactly what they do when you by their name or by the description. If you have a service that seems to be running and you don't want it running, or you don't think, you're not sure whether you need it running or not, you can just open up a new tab in your browser, type in the name of the service, and it will tell you that this is something that you have to have running, or if you can shut it off without any issues to your computer. The under details, you can stop these as well if there's something running. If it's needed for the system to be working, you'll get this well, no, that doesn't, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you the wrong thing. This UAC virtualization, that's only needed, or becomes a issue if you're running like a 32-bit rather than a 64. My understanding is if you're running a 64-bit version of your operating system, this becomes, the UAC virtualization becomes meaningless. So you can just ignore that. Most computers, most of the newer computers, well, within say 5 years, almost all of them run on a 64-bit installation of the operating system. So most of the usage, or at least the ones that I use mostly, are the ones processes, startup, and services. And so I hope that this has been somewhat interesting, and I hope that if you it's kind of just a nice feature to give you an idea of what's going on in the background. So hopefully I will see you next month, and thank you for listening. Have a good one.